Everybody, it's Frederick and Gene Watts. How you doing this evening? This is Love in 60 Seconds.
Ah, trying to get our mess together. I hope I don't flip my thing off. Anyways,
Yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in this evening and once again supporting us. It was great talking to you guys this week and hearing from you. And
Yep.
we're going to continue our topic from our theme from last week. And last week we talked about, I believe it was the 10 things that your spouse may like. And we appreciate all the response we got. Had a good time chatting with you. So tonight, continue to give us those likes and respond and type stuff in on Instagram, on Facebook, and we'll get reply to you while we're live. And so tonight, we're going to talk about
10 things that your spouse does not like, that your husband or your wife does not like, that you or your spouse may be doing, and we want you to be cognizant of. You might not be doing it, but if you are doing it, we want to bring it to your attention so that you can spark a conversation and see if it's causing a problem, see if it's causing an issue, so that you can remedy that problem. Hey, Tallulah, my sister's on, so I can remedy that problem, remedy that issue if you're having an issue in that part of your relationship.
Yeah. So if you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage, go get your spouse or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, sit them down, and you guys watch this together. And we'll have some fun tonight. We look forward to your comments. We look forward to your replies. We want to be interactive tonight.
Yeah.
Bless you, Lisa. It's good to hear from you and good seeing you. Hope all is well with you. And we're going to get right into it. So we'll have some fun this evening.
Yeah.
And then once again, please continue to share this and like it and share it with all your friends and go back and watch it again on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. So we're going to talk about the 10 things that we think our spouses may not like. And you want to start off? Some of these should be funny. Some of them could be relevant. Some of them may be hit or miss. So we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yep, it's it's everything is relative to your personal situation. These are just things in general, and again, these are designed to spark some conversation and designed to, give you an opportunity to self examine yourself and see if you're doing these things or your spouse if they're doing these things. That you can be like, see, nobody likes it. Anyways.
Like the top 10 on David Letterman, sort of.
Exactly.
Like
kind of like the top 10.
Family Feud.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like the top 10 on there. So we want to kind of get right into it. We hope everybody has had a great day. Today is Monday. It is, it's Monday. So, it was a Monday for me, but hopefully it was not so bad for you, and hopefully he will not be doing all this yawning, because he does this because we do it so late. He yawns all the time while we're doing it. Who wants to see that? No one.
Tonight's topics are the 11 things
The 11
you don't
things.
like, because I'm writing down.
I'm writing
another
this one down too. Stop yawning while we trying to do the thing. Okay. Anyways, that's it. All right. So we're being authentic. We're being genuine, and there we go. So, anyways, for women, one of the things that we do not like, then I guess the number 10 thing, I guess I could say on the list, is when you go right into fix-it mode, or when your husband goes right into fix-it mode. And really, a lot of times, we've talked about this before, where the husband doesn't really listen and engage and just want to hear what his wife has to say. Hey, Mike Harris.
Mike.
Doesn't want to really listen to what his significant other, his wife, has to say. He just goes right into trying to fix it. And women, we don't really love that. A lot of times what we really want to be is exactly, I don't like it when my man thinks he always right, because he's not always right.
We are always right.
Not always
we
right.
Are right. That's why.
But again, you wanna be able to be listened to. You want to be able to be heard. And you want to be able to communicate, and not all the time him trying to fix the problem. Women, a lot of times we want to be heard. And sometimes we want you to fix the problem, but most of the times it's really that we want to be heard, we want to be listened to, we want to feel like that we've been communicated.
And for men, it's your nature to always wanting to fix things. You know, if you love somebody and they're hurting or they're in pain, they're your spouse, they're your significant other, you want them to be, you know, you want to be able to be that Superman and be able to fix things. And that's not a bad flaw, but like my wife said, is that it is important that you hear her, that you hear your spouse, that you hear your significant other. And sometimes before you fix it, like she said, and I've had to learn this, sometimes it's better just to listen. It's better just to try to understand. And sometimes the solution's not even necessary, because a lot of times if a woman is venting, you know, most of the time she probably already has the solution. She just wants you to listen.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's one thing that we can do, men, to be more helpful is to be a listening type of a person. Hold on just a second. All right. For some reason the iPad wasn't charging.
All right. So,
All right, so we're gonna have to set up a little higher.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Anyways.
So that was number 10. So for me, or for men, we think one thing that we would say that a woman should be cognitive of a man is that a man doesn't like when you bring up past mistakes consistently. You know, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but in a relationship, it's sort of a what would you call it? Not a boiling point, but a point of where you would have issues if you're constantly saying, you know what, I remember when you did this. I remember when you did that. I remember that, you know, and that has to do more with when you say you forgive, or when you say you may not always forget, but when somebody is humbly and trying to change, you know, it can be sort of detrimental if you keep bringing up past mistakes.
Absolutely. I agree that you can't continue to do that, but one of the things that would be helpful in those type of situations is to make sure that you do give your wife enough time to really talk about the situation. Because like if you've offended her in any way, whether it's a small offense or whether it's a serious offense, if you don't give her time to process that, or you are not honestly engaging in conversation about it, whereas she's able to work through it. Again, communication is really important to women. If you do not do that, it's going to keep coming back up because she hasn't processed it. She's still trying not to offend you, but she's still trying to process it. So if you haven't really given enough attention to letting her hear, Sir man doesn't like it when she go crazy shopping. Who likes it? But we do like it. But again,
well, we about to get into that. So.
We are about to get into that. So we're going to get into that part. But again, we do want to make sure that we are having that conversation with our spouse. You know, men, give your wife the opportunity to have those discussions. And she may, depending on the level of offense, she may have to have that discussion a few times. Be patient. Be loving. Be knowing that if she's there, if she's with you, she's forgiving you. If she's there, she's forgiving you. But she has to process total healing of whatever it was. Even if you just said she had terrible cooking, that hurts her feelings. So she got to process that, and she might be like, "Well, what don't you like about my cooking?" You know, and she may ask you again, "Well, what particular dish don't you like?" You know what I'm saying? And until she feels like she's healed from that, you got to kind of just deal with it.
Yeah, but don't, you know, it's always communication and how you bring things up and how you present things.
Yeah.
So that would be number 10, I believe. So number 9, I think I'll switch off and I'll go first because Lisa on Facebook had already talked about that a little bit, is that men, and this is more of a jokingly, and if Mike, you're still on Instagram, give me a thumbs up or let me know. We're not big. We don't mind going shopping. We don't like the indecisiveness of window shopping. Men tend to have like, look, I'm going to Walmart, I'm going to wherever, and I'm going to get A, B, 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 B. And sometimes, you know, it is, we get impatient. We be like, okay, well, we came here for rollers, and now we're looking at I don't know, pizzas or shoes or something. It's funny because, when you're in a relationship, that is something that sometimes you have to even do give and take. And that's more of a joke, but don't make that the issue. Even though, okay, you may not like doing shopping, but I like spending time with you. So we're going to, but all I'm saying as a man, I don't like to go shopping, so don't push it. I'm going to do that because I like spending time with you. I'm enjoying it. But when I start huffing, at least start wrapping it up.
Lisa says, her husband says she takes too long. Didn't leave him home, child. Leave him at home. He don't have to go.
Tell your husband to have some patience. Come with me, go through the store and do all that. Thank you, Mike. So I know I'm right. I know, you got to respect our time. It's not that we don't like being with you. It's just that's how we wired. I think a lot of men, I like to take you shopping. I like to buy you things. I like to walk around. But it gets to that point, I'm ready to go.
And I respect that. I learned that early on, so I do respect that. I do a lot of online shopping now, so he doesn't even have to be involved. He just sees packages come to the door. Packages at the door for me. Christmas every day. All right. So, I guess my number 9 thing would be, or for women, I guess, not necessarily mine, but my number 9 thing would be when men don't balance their hobbies and personal life well. Meaning, like, if you fellas, if you always on the PS4, is it the 4 now?
Yeah.
Okay. You're always on the PS4, you always on the Xbox, you are always out doing whatever you do with the fellas, bowling or golfing or whatever it is. If you're always doing that and you're not making your wife feel like a priority, then that's an issue. That becomes an issue. My husband likes to golf, and I don't mind ever when he goes golf. I think it's a great thing. It's a great hobby. I haven't taken it up yet, but I don't mind when he does it. It doesn't bother me. But if he were to do it all the time, like if he were to play video games every time I turn around, he's on the video game and he's never looking at me or never engaging with me, then I'm gonna say, why are you always on that game? Or why are you always on that phone? Or why are you always, you know what I'm saying? Why are you always doing that? Whatever your hobby is, if he plays, Candy Crush or whatever it is, you can't make that more important than engaging in your wife and family.
Right.
So. And
engaging is important. And look, we got the Moore family watching with us, both husband and wife. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Definitely give us some advice on what you guys think and contact and go with us. So when you're engaging, it's okay to have the hobby, but it's just that it should never, like you said, be a priority.
Absolutely.
It should never be a priority. You should never even be in the room more. And that, at one point in our marriage, especially we first started off, I had my buddies. We used to play the football game for hours. And my wife didn't say anything. When she finally said, you know what, that's okay, but I shouldn't come second.
Right.
And then once you start having kids, and then I finally, we finally all outgrew it. But you just want to be considerate of your spouse if he or she is feeling neglected or feeling second. Don't take that as offense that she doesn't want you or he doesn't want you to have a hobby. But you just make sure that you prioritize what's more important.
Absolutely.
And it should be your spouse that makes it to have a more easier relationship.
Yes, more peaceful relationship.
More peaceful relationship. I think number 8 would be that maybe a man may feel that is important, or what he doesn't like would be constantly talking about other men. And when I mean that, not like saying, oh, Johnny is so this or that, but more of a comparison. Oh, you don't make as much money as he does, or he does this to his wife, he does this to his wife, or for them, he's always. You really don't know what happens in people's homes and what goes on in their relationship.
Larry Callahan.
So, you want to make sure, as a woman, that you are not making your husband, your spouse, your boyfriend, or whatever, making feel that you're comparing him to others.
Absolutely.
That's very important, because what will happen is that he will either do two things. He'll either shut down or he'll either start tuning you out to where he doesn't really care about your comparison. And then that leads to other issues because now you're not communicating. Now you have some seated things that are between you because of comparison. So it's okay to say, hey, you know what? You know, I see so-and-so couple, they do this and this. I would like to try some things or do some things. Like, oh, you know, I saw so-and-so go on a picnic. You know, I think we should try that, you know, but don't compare them constantly. Like, man, every time you see so-and-so, he's like, oh, I like how he dressed. I like what he does for his wife and all that. And not sewing back into your husband.
Absolutely. You cannot, you know, make those comparisons. You can't be like, you know, Mr. Jones or Mr. Brown, you know, he always looking good. His car is always clean. He's keep his wife's car clean. He does this, that, and the other. And you're always making a comparison about some other dude, with your husband, or you just always talking about some other guy. This guy at work, oh, he's so funny. Jacob at work, oh, he is so funny. Let me tell you what he did today.
Right.
No, that's a no.
Yeah.
That's a no.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that. That works both ways. Do not come talking to me about nobody at your job, the female. That's a big no. Do not come, and I'm not gonna come talking about, you know, some other guy that I've worked with. And I'm just gonna interject this here. Like Proverbs 31, woman, it basically says that her husband is known in the gates. You know, and that's right. It's very disrespectful. Her husband is known in the gates. And I tell my husband this all the time. You can ask any one of my clients randomly, male or female, they will know within the first time meeting me or talking to me on the phone that I am married. They will know that my husband, that I respect and love my husband, and that I am in, you know, a good relationship with my husband because of the way that I carry myself. And he will become a part of the fabric of my conversation because he's not around all the time, because he's away. He flies and does whatever, you know, travels with work. They're going to know that he is a intricate part of my life, and that I'm a married woman. I'm going to wear my ring. That's a fence. I'm going to wear my ring so that I can have that fence built. But they're going to know, you know, they're going to know who my husband is. Oh, hearts are from the missus.
All right, what'd you have?
Oh, my next one would be...
Well, that's your number 8. Your number 8.
Yep. Asking for a compliment. Guys, if you don't know this, and if you've been married, sometimes this is a trick that happens. If you've been married for a long time, this is really easy for men to forget and to neglect. If you've been married for a long time, do not forget to compliment your wife. If she changes her hair, if she, you know, puts on a different color lip gloss, or she puts on a different kind of dress, or she gets something dressed, or does something different, notice her. Notice what she's doing, because 9 times out of 10, she's doing it for you. She's doing it to get your attention, or she's doing it for your love and your approval, for you to be, you know, like, wow, you know, you're more attracted to her, you know, at that particular moment, or whatever the case is. Make sure that you're noticing, because women do not like, if I come in with a new wig, do not notice my new wig, or whatever it is that I got. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that I have, don't come in and not notice that I made an effort for you, that I made an effort and wore something different, or made you something different, you know, different meal, or went a special out of my way to do something for you. If you don't notice it, that's very offensive to a woman, because, you know, most of the time it takes a lot for us to do something extra, because our lives are so full of caring for you and everyone else, that, you know, it just, you know, it's offensive to us if you don't recognize it.
Right. And for men, words build or break down your spouse, your significant, your wife. You know, even when the Bible talks about, in reference to words, pretty much how the woman is a weaker vessel, is she needs that. Yeah. She needs that building from her, because she needs that protection. She needs that covering. Now, my wife is an excellent cook, and, you know, I've never eaten a meal that she didn't like, or that I didn't like that she cooked. I always tell her how much I enjoy her meal. Oh, except one. And then we joke about that all the time. But we, even just in the little things, like, you know, like she worked today. She had a full day of work. And I actually just was exhausted, and didn't go work out with her. And then she came home. I was going to try to do, and she came home and cooked. And I was like, that was really above and beyond. And I just wanted to say, it was a delicious meal, but it wouldn't be right for me not to say, hey, thank you. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate just taking the extra effort, So when men compliment their wives, when they pour into their wives, they're building into them. And just like when you pour water into a flower, when that flower starts to open up, you get the beauty and you get the aroma, you get everything. So you have to make sure that you're pouring into your wife. You have to make that so that she won't feel neglected and that she won't feel unappreciated. That's very important. That's sometimes, you have to learn that. Don't let life's issue make sure that you don't tell your wife that she's beautiful, that she's pretty, that she's the only one that catches your eyes, that her hourglass figure at 40 looks just as good as it did at 25. All those things are important. And it's very important that you keep sowing into your wife. Number 7 for men. For women, think about this, and women and this is one of my joking ones again. No critiquing how we drive. Okay. Let's talk about. I don't know about, and hey, we can't really type back with you guys a lot, but give us some.
Because he got a broken hand because he didn't want to listen to me when I was talking about his driving. I'm just
this is it right there. So, and we haven't talked about abuse, so. Help me. Somebody help me. I need help. She beats me daily.
Oh my God.
I'm just joking.
Silly.
No, but critique, if your man is driving you everywhere that you go, do you have to critique every time he steps on the brakes? If he haven't hit nothing.
Now, if you see a lot of brake lights and he's still going, I'm
still talking. If he has not hit nothing and has not done anything, quit critique. Can I get some men on Instagram and on Facebook to be like, give me some hearts, be like, quit critiquing my driving. Let me drive. I know where I'm going. I don't get lost. No, but and that's anything. If your spouse is working to helping you, maybe everything, make sure that you're not just critiquing everything that they do. Mm-hmm. Be able to say, hey, let's build upon this, or here's a suggestion, but constantly critiquing could be a turnoff.
Absolutely. I agree. You definitely don't want to constantly critique, but you want to make sure that,
yes, sir.
You want to make sure that, and that's an age old thing. Wives, really sharing their expressions of how they feel their husbands drive.
Critiquing.
It's not critiquing. It's just saying, you're making me nervous.
It's criticizing.
It's even saying you're making me nervous kind of thing. That's all. But, definitely women, you want to make sure that you do that in moderation, that you're, you just bite the bullet and you just trust that the Lord has you, except the Lord keeps the city. They that watch, the watchmen watcheth in vain. So just know that God has you and just bite the bullet and read a book or do something else to distract yourself while, he's driving. And it's not just driving, whatever it is, just don't consistently. I know it's so hard. It's so hard for me too. Pray for me. But make sure that you, are not consistently doing that, because sometimes just that small thing can become a stumbling block. It can become something that's more than what it really should be. And obviously, that would be layers of things. And that's one of the reasons why we say, people that listen to us, don't wait till you're having serious problems in your marriage to try to reach out. Build on your relationship while your marriage is in a good place, because it has ebbs and flows. It gets, there's highs and lows. There's places where you like everything is great, and then there's places like, wow, I think, I'm just going to make it through here, that kind of thing. So you just want to make sure that you're, paying attention to your marriage on a daily basis. All right. So my numbers, I think I'm on number 6. Okay.
Did you do 7?
I did 6. Yeah.
What was your 7?
My 7 was asking for a compliment.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the next thing that I think that women do not like, is that when our husbands do not leave their stress at the door, when they bring their stress from work or from church or from whatever it is that they're dealing with, they bring it in the house and everybody has to suffer because you had a bad day, or you've been having a bad week or a bad time, or you're super tired. Everybody has to suffer for that. We don't like that because a lot of times we have had the same type of experiences, but we man up as women, and
woman up.
Woman up, and we just deal with it, and we feel like, okay, now if I've dealt with all my stuff in my day and I didn't come home and snap at you, I really feel like you shouldn't be snapping at me, or I really feel like that you should not be being aggressive with me and bringing all that stress into the house with the kids, yelling at the kids, kicking the dog, like my husband says, all that kind of stuff. Men, you have to learn how to leave that stress outside the door. And my husband gave a great analogy of we had listened to a minister before, and he was talking about this person had a tree outside that he would stop at the tree, and everything that negative happened to him in that day, he would leave it at the tree before he went into the house. And my husband said he had started exercising right before he would enter into our house from the garage. He would leave everything negative outside of that and bring, and come into the house. And I noticed a notable change, even, because his job is, kind of stressful sometimes. So I noticed a notable change in just the persona, because wives, we, get to where we walking on eggshells. If you feeling some type of way.
Right. And it's all about perception. You have to remember, when you walk into your home, that's your castle. It is where everything in the world is precious to you. So why would you want to mistreat the things that are most precious to you? So, make sure that if whatever technique you have, even though the world may be against you, when you walk into your home, everybody inside that home loves you and is for you. So don't bring the weight of the world into that. Take a deep breath, yell at the tree, whatever you have to do to get out so that you can make your home, because you don't want to invite spirits of discord, spirits of craziness into your home, where that is supposed to be your place of peace, and to have peace all around. So it is very important that we leave those stresses at the door. And when you walk into your home, enjoy the gifts. If you have children, they're gifts. Absolutely. If you have a wife, it's a blessing. And that's your favor. So enjoy those things.
Yeah, and your wife has a tender heart. So if you come home and she's been waiting to see you all day, or like in my case, all week, it's been several days, sometimes since I will have seen my husband. If he comes home with a rough attitude and just kind of snapping and stuff, that's very disheartening, and it's very heartbreaking, because geez, I've been waiting for you to come home all this time, and then you come home and you mean. That's not cool. Don't come home mean. And I've been waiting all day to see you. I haven't been waiting all this time to see you. Come home and leave that stuff outside and come home with a gentle spirit.
Right. So number six, we're talking about once again things that spouses may not like, and coming from a male perspective. Hey, our sisters signed on. Arlene, how are you? I think men don't like that when women sometimes will hold a grudge, and then what I mean by that is, there's certain things that you should try not to do in a marriage. One, like going to sleep mad, giving the cold shoulder. Life is real. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have disagreements. Some things are major, disagreeing about family members, about money, about all kinds of things, how to raise your children, religion, all those different things. But what you want to do as a man, if he feels that his wife, the one that he's protecting or whatever, is holding a grudge against him because of an opinion or a decision or even an action, it may even cause him to not feel, it'll affect his manhood. And you don't want to ever, get into a point where you're testing a man's manhood, because most men will either, fight or flight. And then once again, that's going to cause a discord in marriage. So, make sure that women, don't be the one that just, and it sort of goes back to the other things, always critiquing or criticizing or holding a grudge, and make sure that you're not going to bed angry, and all that has to do with how you communicate.
Absolutely. I 100% agree that you definitely do not want to, sweetie. Yeah, but, you don't want to hold a grudge. marriage is so much built on the foundation of forgiveness. I heard somebody quote that marriage is not, a successful marriage is not based on I don't know, great people or whatever, but it's people that are great forgivers. So you have to learn the art of forgiveness when you're married, because if you are married any length of time, good 15 minutes, it's going to be craziness. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be some craziness that's going to happen, and you have to learn how to forgive one another and to forbear and to just really undertake one another. Like even when you're married and you start having children, after having that first kid, a wife wants to strangle her husband sometimes, because you feel like, I'm so tired and I'm doing all this and I made this baby and and you still playing video games or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times there's a lot that you have to process, but you must learn the art of forgiveness, because forgiveness will help you forgive the small things. It'll help you forgive the big things. And then it'll help, you realize that we all are in a place in a need of forgiveness when we exercise that type of forgiveness. Now, my number 5 is women hate.
Did you do number 6 too?
I did.
I'm sorry, I keep getting. All right.
When women hate when we have to fight for your attention, and I know this is kind of similar to what the other ones were, but we hate to have to fight for your attention. Now I want to read something. It said, work, kids, friends, families, hobbies, even pets want your attention. But this is how the order should work: God, wife, kids, and then what's most important to you. Whatever else happens there, your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your friends, whatever, all of that stuff. Church work, yeah, I had to learn that the hard way. And I didn't say God, I said church work, because God was first, but then church work, because that sometimes is a lot. But all of those things, God should get your best, obviously, without a doubt. And after him, your wife takes priority. I know this might seem contrary to popular belief for some, but it's true. Don't make your wife have to fight for your attention. Don't make her have to ask to spend quality time together. Surprise her with a date, or even cook her a meal at home, or do something for her to let her know that you are paying attention to her. Life is got so much stuff going on in it. You cannot spend it not focusing on what's important. And that person, let me tell you, your wife is going to be the person that's going to be in it to win it. If anything happens to you, she's going to be the person there for you more than anyone else. Especially if you treat her with the type of respect and love that God requires and that God wants.
That's good. And, when we were making these lists, sometimes we work together. Sometimes we do things separate. Today was one where we sort of compiled it separate. And my number 5 was the same thing. It was making other things first. That's funny. So right in the middle of pretty much men and women both think that, putting others first or other things, whether it be kids, family members, making that your spouse, your significant other, your fiance should always be a priority. And the foundation should always be, God first, and then your spouse, and then everything else falls into place. Because like we said, I've said constantly before, marriage is not a race, it's a journey. Yeah. And it's a lifelong journey. And if you keep putting other things in front of that, you'll never really get the fulfillment of what God has for you in marriage.
Absolutely. And so that leads me to my number 4. When you don't share your thoughts and your feelings, when you don't share your thoughts and feelings. So guys, you got to learn to share your thoughts and feelings with your wife. And I know some guys are like, oh, I'm just not like going to be spilling my feelings or my heart, just saying stuff. Well, if you don't have that line of communication, if you don't share your feelings and thoughts, then we are forced to guess. We are forced to try to figure you out. We become standoffish and we kind of scared to ask you what you're thinking or feeling. When if you just share your heart, we are the person that's going to be there, that's going to put your head in our lap and tell you, baby, it's going to be all right, because I got your back. We're going to make it through this. This is going to be great. Don't you worry, because, oh, please don't worry about that. We're going to pray about it, or whatever it is. I'm your ride or die. You know, so if you're not sharing with me, if I got to figure out why you acting so grumpy or why you're so distant, it brings a wedge in between that relationship. It can cause fear. It can cause anxiety. Or, you know, is he spending time with somebody else? Is this why not he's not, you know, talking to me?
Right.
Is he paying more attention to somebody else? Is this why he's not paying attention to me? It can cause that type of feeling. And then, guys, if you do that, you got to be careful, because somebody else might be sharing information with your spouse, with your wife, and making her feel valued in that way. And then that can cause and open up a whole bunch of other problems and a whole bunch of other issues that become more serious. And you don't want to give that place to the enemy. You don't want to give that place to the devil to just make, you know, something crazier happen in your relationship. Make sure that you share your feelings, share your heart. Absolutely. It goes right back to communication, right, Lisa? Back to communication. You got to make sure that you're communicating back and telling, you know, your wife what's in your heart. She's your best friend. Yeah. She is your best friend. Yeah. The way you become best friends is you talk. Communication. You talk. When you had a best friend when you was a kid in school, you went over, or they came over to you and they spoke to you. Yeah. You communicated. And then y'all start talking, and then y'all start talking about all the stuff y'all had in common. And then you became best friends. Mama, can I go over to your house? Do you take me to this part? You communicated. That makes you better friends.
Very important. Hey, Anthony, Mr. Buckeye out there in California. A number 4 probably would be for men. I believe that one thing they don't like is a spouse that's consistently indecisive. Yeah. You know, a lot of times when we talked about, you know, what a man may have to deal in the workplace, and women, you know, they go out and work and either one, but sometimes anytime he communicates with you, say, hey, honey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you think about this? And you're always indecisive. It can be a little bit frustrating. And it doesn't mean that a man shouldn't always sometimes take the lead, you know, plan dates and do some cooking and help out around the house. But when there's a communication gap and the spouse is always, you know, and it can go either way. Be like, oh, you make all the decisions. No, this is a partnership. You know, this, and you put all the weight on one person by being indecisive. Sometimes that can be unfair, and sometimes it can bring more stress into the relationship.
Absolutely. And, you know, I agree with that. And actually that one goes kind of hand in hand with my next one. That things that I think that women don't like is when they feel like they're not a part of the team. You know, we are a team. This is Team Watts. And we got little Watts that is a part of the team, or they big Watts now, but they are our offspring that are a part of this team. And if a woman feels like she's not a part of the team, like if say you and your brother are the team, or you and your mama are the team, or you and your sister is the team, but you ain't not, and you know, that's just like, you know. And then,
or putting, when you say team, you got to be careful not to put your anybody else before your captain. For, you know, not your. I don't care how much you do for your sister, for your aunt, for your cousin, for your brother. They should never come before your spouse. Because if you do it right and you honor your spouse is more than likely always going to be able to go along and commit to what you desire to do for others. Absolutely. But if you don't do it for them first, it's going to be a problem with them wanting to do for others, because you're not really doing what the Bible says for how you should sow into one another.
Absolutely. And you create resentment if you do that. You create an atmosphere of resentment if you do not make your wife feel like she's a part of the team. Nobody should be, for example, we were just talking about something I got, and I'm just kind of changing some things up just for the sake of, you know, saying it. But they were like, oh, well, you know, I'm gonna call my mama. You know, if something good, this good thing, I'm gonna call my mama, I'm gonna call my sister, I'm gonna call my brother, and get everybody together, and we're gonna. And, you know, where's your spouse? You're not going to get your spouse together and then you guys together decide how you're going to proceed from that point. If that person doesn't feel like they're included in that, you are wrong. There's no other way I can sugarcoat that. There's no other way that I can say that. If you do not make sure that you're checking back with your spouse first, with your wife first, because I'm using this as the wife example. If you're not checking back with your wife first, you're out of order. You're out of order, because that's the other half of you. Your sister's not the other half of you. Your mother, your father, nobody else is the other half. That's the other part of you. That's your completion. So you together as a team, you need to be a team, and make sure that she's a part of the team, and make sure that she feels like that you all are both co-captains in this thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Number 3, for what we believe, or that men, sometimes do not desire or don't like, is, and it sort of goes with number 4, is not saying what you mean. And we sort of talked about this last week. For women, men sometimes are wired just to be straightforward, and or sometimes, maybe they sometimes even lack patience. So a lot of times, if you say one thing but you mean another, and then you don't get the desired effect that you wanted because you didn't communicate it correctly,
That's your fault.
That's your fault. And most likely, and most of the time, it drives men crazy. So a lot of times you really just should say what you mean. And then if you love somebody, you can speak to them tenderheartedly to say, hey, I even have an issue how you treated me, or this situation happened, or this is how I feel, instead of saying, just sort of hinting about stuff. Because if you're hinting and not really saying what you mean, you'll never get the desired outcome if there's an issue of your heart, or an issue that needs to be tended to, because you're not communicating effectively or honestly.
Absolutely. You gotta, and that's a learned art. That is a learned craft. That's a learned art, to be able to share your feelings and shoot from the hip. I had to become that woman. I was not always that person. I was not always that person within my marriage, I should say. With other people, pretty much whatever I say to you, that's pretty much what I meant. You know what I'm saying? That's I will, sprinkle it with sugar if I need to, because I think as Christians, we should do that. We should not just be like, you're a dope and just say you're a dope. You know what I'm saying? You should be like, oh, well, I feel like we could have done better in this situation. You know what I'm saying? This is a teachable moment, whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? If it's somebody that you have that type of relationship with. But you should really, make sure that you are getting to a point where you say what you mean. You tell your husband, okay, I don't like when you do this because it makes me feel like this. Say that. Because otherwise he guessing, why is she acting crazy?
Right.
Why is she doing this? And then he asks you what's wrong, and you say what? Come on, type it in, girls. You know what they say? Nothing. And you said, what's wrong? And you said nothing. Well, then he think there's nothing wrong. Okay. Well, he knows something is wrong, but he just don't know what it is, and he's not he's not checking for guessing. He's just like, hey, well, you know what? I don't know I don't know. I can't keep asking you, and I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong. I don't like when you do that. And I'm going to say it nicely, and it makes me feel, some kind of way when you do that. Which leads me into my next topic, my number 3, is we do not like to be compared to any other women. Don't compare me to no other woman. Don't do it. And he talked about that earlier, about talking about other men all the time, about what they doing. Some other guy at your job, or some other guy at your church, or some other guy down the street, your neighbor or whatever. Oh, he cuts his grass so good. Right. No, but do not compare me with any other woman. Don't compare me and saying, okay, well, this person's, and I don't care, sometimes people confuse that. And I want to make this clear. They confuse it with just saying some other woman that may not be related to them. Don't compare me with, your sister. My sister does this for her husband, blah, blah, blah. Right. Don't do that. Right. Don't do it. My sister is an amazing wife and mother. My sister, you should see how the kids look. My sister's kids look so, they look so good. Or they don't do that, because that's grounds for getting you the birds. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just being exactly, getting the 1-2 chop, catching the hands. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to compare your wife to any other woman. Your wife, number one, is the standard of beauty. She is the standard of beauty. She is the standard of class. She's the standard of womanhood. She is the standard of everything great that has to do with a woman. Your wife is the standard. How do you know that? Because you picked her.
Yeah.
You bet.
And like I said before, we did this separately, combining our list. And it's funny, most of the stuff are the same, but they're in different order. Comparison for men, even though it was important, it was lower. It was like number 8 for men, because we can sort of shrug it off, or sometimes you might even internalize it. But for a woman, that comparison has to deal with the other things on the list, making sure that you are sewing into her physically, emotionally, constantly, saying that she is appreciated, communicating verbally.
Absolutely.
And so it is much higher on her list than on a man's list.
Absolutely.
And so that means, that's part of love languages, understanding what is important with your spouse, and how to not only understand what that your spouse needs, but how to effectively communicate and give it to them.
Absolutely. And like Lisa mentioned also, don't be comparing your wife to your ex-girlfriend or your ex-wife. Yeah. That's grounds to get beat up too. That's like you can really get beat up. Do not do that. And we don't mean just do it externally or out in the open. Don't do it mentally. Don't be making comparisons in the inside of your mind. If you find yourself doing it, make yourself not do that, because it's not cool. It's not fair. And you wouldn't want somebody doing that to you. And because again, and then saying all of that, the grass is always greener on the other side. You don't really know, what I'm saying, what's what. You know what I'm saying? And then if you're not looking at the whole package and not looking at the whole picture, you're not making an accurate assessment of anything. So do not compare your wife to any other woman. She is the standard of beauty. Right. She is the standard of everything good in a woman. So make sure that if there is any comparison, they are compared down. Like, gosh, you know what? Even if there's a conversation, it shouldn't even be one. But if there's a conversation about some other lady, be like, yep, she is nice, but honey, let me tell you, she can't hold a candle to you. Right. You are the most beautiful. God, you know what? But if she had your skin, your smile, that's what you got it. That's what you do, because you build up what's in your house. You build up what's yours.
Yep. If you had your muscles, if you had your intelligence, those things. Don't let comparison kill your relationship.
Absolutely.
Number 2, we get into our last 2 and we're almost done. Yeah, we've been on an hour almost. So number 2, and I think this is really important, and even though it's sort of in jest, but it is something that has been affecting relationships, especially marriage. And you have to make sure, especially for men do not like withholding intimacy, withholding sex, and for either punishment or for just as a reward. Your intimacy, your sexual becoming relationship should be loving, it should be rewarding, it should be giving. It shouldn't be used as a tool or a pawn. Right. Because what that does is that allows the spirit of the enemy to bring in isolation, watching, if you're into watching porn and all that stuff, that'll kill your relationship, that'll destroy your marriage. It brings in all those things. And if you are a woman that withholds those things as punishment, you may push your husband to those things, and it doesn't do anything but destroy your marriage. So there is a part of intimacy that comes with relationship, with communication. You want to men, we talked about this, and all the intimacy doesn't start in the bed. It starts in the morning when you kiss her on the neck, when you tell her how beautiful she is, when you open the door for her, and all those things. But for a man, as a woman, you don't want to make intimacy in marriage as a reward. Right. Or as something that is just, I'm doing this because you should enjoy this just as much. You should enjoy what I give to you, how I pleasure you, how I sow into you in that aspect. So make sure that you don't withhold intimacy as a punishment or even as a reward. It should be, that's part of marriage that you both enjoy.
Absolutely. It should be a celebration of your love every time that you come together, and not something that because he didn't do something that you didn't like, so then you're just withholding it. Now, to make sure that we're clear on this, man, that doesn't mean that you can act like a clown and expect her to be pliable and expect her to be receptive to intimacy in that manner. You got to do your part and not be a knucklehead, and make sure that you're inviting her in engaging her and loving on her where she is open to being involved like that. Because if you loving on your wife like that all the time, she's a lit fire, honey. She'll stay lit for the whole duration of the ride. Right. But if you're not building her up throughout that day, and every day, it does create a barrier for her to be receptive. But ladies, if he makes you upset or makes you mad, that's no reason to withhold intimacy from your spouse, because again, it's just a tool that the enemy will use to bring in all kinds of craziness.
Right. And put effort. We joke about men like effort too. Men like to see their woman in line, even though if you wear lingerie out the bathroom to the bedroom, it gets taken off before you get in the bed, which happens,
Yeah.
but it's the effort. So men do desire effort too.
Absolutely.
In that. And so don't just come to bed with rollers in your head all the time. All the time. Or
sometimes.
So it's okay, yeah. Or a face mask or whatever.
Yeah.
All the stuff. Make an effort. And men should also be doing the same.
Absolutely. Like our bishop says, don't put the perfume on when you're getting ready to go out all the time. Put the perfume on when you're staying home. When you're going to bed, put the perfume on then. And that makes a lot of sense. All right. So my next one is, and again, this kind of goes back to one of the ones that you said. But anyways, women don't like to be expected to balance the home and family alone. The home is not the sole responsibility of the wife unless she wants it to be. But I doubt that that's the case all the time. And I'm reading this because, women, we're tired. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing stuff. We work. It's not like it was in the 50s. And that was one of our first episodes. Mm-hmm. It's not like it was in the 50s. We work. You know what I'm saying? And we still got to deal with the kids. We still got to make lunches. Some of us, I have friends that homeschool their kids, doing a whole bunch. That is a lot, man. So much. And I admire people and I applaud people that do that, because my kids would have known 2 + 2 if I had to homeschool, because we'd all been having ice cream every day. And what y'all learned today? Nothing. We learned that we like, what you call it, cookie dough, chocolate chip cookie dough. That's what we learned today.
And long naps.
And long naps and songs in the afternoon. That's what we would have learned. But because, that's just not my personality type. I don't have the patience for that. But there's a lot of people, a lot of women that do that, and men that do it. But I'm speaking for women right now. A lot of women that do that. Hey, there's Susan. A lot of women, and that's exhausting. And for me, like with the type of job that I have, I tell my husband all the time, even though I do a lot of running around and driving and stuff like that, the most exhausting part of my job is the mental part. That part is exhausting. Thinking, the negotiations, the talking, that part is really exhausting. And if a woman feels like she's got to do all of that in her life, her day, deal with all the kids, deal with making sure that the lights don't get turned off and all this other kind of stuff, making sure all this stuff is happening, and then I got to do everything at home, all the stuff, all the time I got to cook, and the dishes are going to pile up and nobody's going to wash them. I got to do all of it. Like, seriously, that women don't like that. They don't like that. They like to feel like they are helped. And again, I have said this time and time again. If a woman gets help doing some other things, doing the things that are necessary, then she can really spend more time ministering to you as a husband, ministering to you, loving on you, catering to your needs. Absolutely. Hey there, Lisa Porter. Hey, good Lisa. To see you. So again, those that are watching on Instagram, those that are watching on Facebook, making sure that your husband is helpful, or your husbands make sure that you're helpful with your wife, because again, she has more energy, she has more love, she has more time to see about you. If you help her, if you wash the dishes after she cooks, then you both are done pretty much at the same time. Then you both can turn in early,
right,
and do whatever.
Yep. All right, so number one thing for men that we believe that they do not like, and this is actually good. Actually, it would be, I think, nagging. I think a nagging spouse, and not just nagging, because it's the difference between complaining, communicating, and nagging. I think a real, what would you call it, relationship killer are the three words to say, can you at least? You know, you have
Hey,
to.
James.
Hey, James, you have to. If you say, can you at least, that's probably going to shut your man down. Because he'd be like, can I at least what? Can I at least bring home the bacon? Can I at least provide? Can I at least protect for you? Can I at least make sure that you have a roof over your head? Can I go out into this world and make sure I come home every day back to you, you know? And then when I come home, all you do is nag and complain.
Let me ask you this. Does that mean, like if a woman says, can you at least, does that mean, or does that stem from, do you think that stems from a woman who feels like she doesn't get any help at home?
No, I'm talking about when you're saying it in a nagging way.
I see.
Meaning you're saying, because, and even, you don't have to say, no, and even that way, that goes back to saying what you mean. Can you help me with the dishes? Can you help me around the house? I need some help. But when you say, can you at least, it's more of a derogatory.
Sure, because it negates everything else that you really do.
Right, that you
Gotcha.
do, especially if you are honestly, because I may not know that, you know, or realize we could be married 1 year, 10 years. I may not know or have expected you communicate with me that if you cook, I do dishes or whatever, you know, something like that. So you'd be like, honey, can you do the dishes when I cook? Or can you once a week cook for me or for the hump? But when you say, can you at least, you know, because you're saying it in a nagging way, I think for men, that's going to be the number one thing that'll cause a disconnect in relationships.
Absolutely. I can certainly see that. I can certainly, see how a man would really feel disrespected if a woman says, can you at least, especially if he's working and he's coming home every day and, or he's coming home when he's done with work, whether he's out of town or whatever, and you're saying, can you at least, like, oh, I don't do nothing else. And that's all I can do is at least, can I at least? I don't do. Right. I guess I don't do nothing else.
Right.
And you have, again, it goes back to communication and how to communicate. Like I said, we're getting ready to wrap it up, but it goes back to how to communicate. You don't say, you don't negate what a person is doing. And Miles Monroe, he had taught some time ago about a lady that was at his church, and the lady would be like, Pastor, I need you to pray for my husband because he goes out every night and he stays out all night, and he is he just being a terrible husband. He stays out all night and he's out drinking and partying, and I think he's out with other women and just all of these kind of things, and he doesn't get home to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And he said something to her that I didn't expect him to say, and probably she didn't expect him to say. And he said, that's amazing. He comes home every night. And that's all he said. And it changed her perspective, because she would nag him all the time. Why are you out all hours of the night? Why are you, doing this, that, and the other? What she did was she changed her approach. Exactly. It's how we approach. She changed her approach. And what she did was, when he came home at night, she would thank him. She would have food ready for him, and she would say, honey, thank you so much for coming home tonight. And flipped his wig, flipped this man's wig. He was like, what? And he still did it for a while. But the ending testimony was that this man began to come in earlier and earlier at night. And then he finally not only not stayed out at night, but he came to church, gave his heart to the Lord, and was a faithful usher in the church. And all because her approach was different. All because of the way she said, even though she was frustrated and she was still angry and hurt that he was staying out all night, the way she approached him, the way that she gave her attention to her husband was with such respect and such gratitude for what he did do. And a little gratitude, I really believe, can go a long way. And that's both sides of the spectrum. That's for husbands and for wives. A little bit of gratitude, it can go so much. If you just sometimes say, man, thank you. Because my husband, all the time, whenever I cook and I put the meal down, no matter how tired I am, or whether it's an amazing meal, or whether it's something super simple, a grilled cheese sandwich or whatever, he always says thank you. And because he says thank you, no matter how tired I am, it gives me the energy to make sure that he is taken care of, and that I make meals for him, or we go to a restaurant or whatever. But that I make sure that he's taken care of, and I can do it with joy. All right, last one, because we're getting ready to sign off of Instagram. Our Instagram is about to be out. The last one is being a spiritual leader of the family. Women don't like to have to be the spiritual leader of the family. They do not like this. You guys might cut off on Instagram, but
we're gonna wrap it up on Facebook.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up on Facebook. Yeah, but again, we don't like to have to be the spiritual leader. We want you to take us to the Lord. We want you to take us to Christ. We want you to take us before God. We want you to do that. So again, making sure that you are being that spiritual leader in the home. And I know a lot of times it seems like the man is not, unless he's a pastor. And then if he's a minister, sometimes it seems like he not living worth a dollar sometimes. But you don't have to have a title to be godly. No. You don't have to have a title to be godly. Be godly and lead your family in prayer. If your wife, she shouldn't feel afraid to be weak, and you should always make her feel strong. And she shouldn't have to be the one that leads the family in devotion. I really appreciate my husband because he does that often. He did that even today. He made some suggestions for us, that some things that we're seeking God for. He made some suggestions today to lead us in some spiritual warfare that we just need to do. And he was the one who suggested it, and he was the person who led us in that charge. And again, you don't have to have a title to be a spiritual leader, but you do have to have a life to be a spiritual leader. Right. You do have to have a relationship with God.
And prayer is the foundation of a successful relationship, not only here physically, but spiritually. The only way that you can communicate with God is through prayer. Mm-hmm. And that's why he commands us to always pray and not faint, because that is the effective way to solve any solution, whether it be spiritual or physical. And, and a lot of times the enemy, if he can distract you through life, through relationships, through anything, not to pray, then he knows that he has hindered your battle. He has hindered the weapon that you most need to be effective to destroy his kingdom. So it is important, man, that you continue just, you don't have to be all deep. You can say a 30-second prayer.
Absolutely.
But a woman, when she sees her man, her praying and leading and believing. And sometimes we can pray, and sometimes, sometimes I'll be like, we need to pray, but you pray. But it's still me initiating, saying that this is what I'm hearing from God. And then as long as you're in tune with God, that makes your wife feel that she can, all the other 9 things and all the other 10 things is going to be all right, because she knows you're connected.
Absolutely.
And that's the number one thing.
Absolutely. That's the number one thing. Be the leader, men in your home spiritually, and be the, if you have areas where you're weak, seek God, for strength, and be honest with your wife about seeking God for strength. Honey, I'm really working on this part of me. And I want you to pray with me. And I'm praying and I'm asking God. Let me tell you, for a woman, there's really not much you can do. And if you tell her that you're praying and that you're really trying, that she can't get past or forgive you for. Women are very resilient. So if you are really, truly, and honestly praying and seeking, and it can get real rough. If you're seeking God for help, and you're seeking help if it's something really serious, and you're seeking consistent counsel, good counsel, a woman can really get past a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you tuning in this evening. We definitely appreciate and love you. We're praying for you. We see your request, Lisa. We are definitely praying for your friend. We believe that no weapon that's formed against you shall prosper.
Absolutely.
And it goes on to say that is the heritage. Just because you are a believer, that is a promise that God has given to you to believe. So we believe by his stripes that he is healed, and that your friend is healed. We are praying for him. We're also praying for each and every one of your marriages, and each and every one of your relationships.
On your future relationships.
Future relationships. We love you both, and continue to tune in. I think it's time for another giveaway.
All right.
Yep, I think we're getting ready to do one of those. So watch us this week. Follow information. Make sure you guys have Cash App so we can sow into your lives.
Yeah.
Continue to sow or to share this message and to
Yes.
share this rebroadcast. Go back and watch it with your friends, with your spouse.
Yes,
So
share.
much. We love
Like,
you guys.
love, and
Yep.
share.
Like, love, and share.
Like Prophet
We
Trumbo would
appreciate-
say.
Yes, we appreciate you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. And look for information on our giveaway coming up soon.
Yeah.
All right. God bless you. We appreciate you.
This has been Love in 60
60
seconds.
seconds. See you later.